Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
Orson Welles, speaking from London. The Black Museum. A museum of death. Yes, here in the grim stone structure on the Thames, which houses Scotland Yard, is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, a fountain pen, a cufflink, a high-heeled shoe, all are touched by murder. Now here's a scarf, torn and ragged, the faded tartan, a cheap reproduction of the honorable colors of the Stuarts, red with green blue crossings and a double-over check of white and yellow. This scarf belonged to Walter Hoffman Piewski, known to the police and his friends in the underworld as the Pike.
There's no doubt about this scarf being his property, Superintendent. He was wearing it when he was sent to Dartmoor 10 years ago.
The description tallies, does it?
Exactly. It's all written down in the prison property book, even to the patch on it.
So the Pike's our man. Right, we'll get him.
And get him they did. And all because of a scarf, appropriately known in Cockney circles as a choker. The Pike applied his choker to a human throat, the throat of the driver of a post office van. The Pike pulled the choker too hard. It was instrumental in convicting him of murder. And that's why it's earned its place here in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Department of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum. In just a moment, you will hear The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles. Now, The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
Well, here we are in the Black Museum. Beyond these gray walls, the mighty roar of London never stops. But in here, it's quiet. Come with me under the frieze of death masks, the masks of criminals of bygone days, suspended grimly under the ceiling. Come, To our right and left, rows of murder exhibits, each one carefully labeled. That cut glass scent spray is attractive even now. Might even take its place on Madam's dressing table, till we stop and read the label written under it. Perhaps it's been used to spray anesthetic over the faces of helpless women as a prelude to murder. No sickly aroma now, as we squeeze the bulb. Except for its grim associations, the fragile exhibit is insignificant, easily broken. But it was strong enough to hang the man who used it. There's a brass candlestick. Over there, a taper to go with it. Now, here we are. Here's what we're looking for. The faded tartan scarf. As I take it out of the showcase, I ask you to come with me back to the time when this scarf was new, 15 years ago. Walter Pievsky bought it from a stallholder in one of London's famous street markets, Petticoat Lane.
Yes, sir. We'll take one of the scarves, mister.
Right, sir! Finest worsted woven! What's your clan? Campbell's, Cameron's, MacDonald or MacLeod? All genuine tartan today down from the islands!
All right. I've bought it already. You don't need to give me that stuff. I'll take this one.
It's the Stuart! And better than that you cannot do! Not half a nicker! Not 5 bob! Half a crown and cheap at the price! Thank you very much. Come and get your Scotch chokers from Honest John Mackay. If your neck's warm...
While Honest John continued his honest trade, the pike went about his own particular business. It was less exhausting than John's, and it was work from a public call box. In professional circles, they called it the hospital trick.
Hello?
Is that Mrs. Peterson speaking?
Yes, who's that?
The London Hospital here, Mrs. Peterson.
Hospital? Why, what's happened?
Oh, there's no need for immediate alarm, but I'm sorry to say that your husband has met with a serious accident.
Oh, Bill? Is he hurt? Oh, no, what's happened?
He was knocked down by a bus in the Whitechapel Road about half an hour ago.
A mean, crude trick. But more often than not, it worked. While the stricken woman hurried to the hospital to find the husband, who of course was not hurt at all, the pike would visit her house. With the coast clear, he'd help himself to whatever he could lay his hands on and get out before the bewildered woman returned. And you notice that the pike could almost camouflage that accent he had. This gift gave him a confidence which was almost his undoing. One time when he and some friends were removing the entire contents of a house while the owners were away on holiday.
What about the piano, Pike? Do we take that?
Of course we take everything. Who'd think of moving out and leaving the piano behind, eh?
You'll get us blooming well, ain't you, Will? Okay, boys, piano next. Oh, crikey, the phone. Here, what do we do about that? Let it ring, I suppose.
No. Maybe it's someone's seen the van outside and checking up. I'd better answer it.
Yeah, go easy,
Don't worry, Ed. I know my job, don't I?
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Is that Mr. Wilson?
No, I'm awfully sorry. He won't be back until about 7 o'clock. I'm his brother-in-law. Can I help you?
If your sister's there...
Oh, Julie's just gone out for half an hour. Can I take a message?
Yes, I think you can. I'm her brother. Who the blazes are you?
Quick, boys. Let's get out of here.
Right out.
So the piano was left behind after all. But Pike got away with most of the household belongings and observed, not only were his operations becoming bolder, but he had planned his action carefully. He even knew that Mrs. Wilson's first name was Julie. But he didn't know she had a brother. That must have shaken him, because from then on he changed his tactics. The Pike entered the motor racket, a racket which was to take him in turn from Dartmoor prison to the scaffold. But in his early days as a motor thief, there was still a trace of strange humor about his work. The padlocked car was a case in point.
Who's that?
Okay, Eddie, it's only me. You wouldn't go reaching for a gun when Parky walks in on you.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, Pike. It's me nerves.
Well, relax. Now, listen to me. I've got a job for you.
No, I'm laying off for a bit.
Okay, well, who pays the rent?
Oh, I'm only going in for the small stuff.
Well, this is a small job I'm offering you.
What is it, busting into the Bank of England, eh?
No. It's a simple matter of knocking off a nice new motor.
Well, what's the dope?
Well, it's this way. The car belongs to a fellow named Lambert who lives at 14 Graysdyke Crescent. See? He can't get it into the garage beside the house on account of it being too big.
Why didn't the mug measure it before he bought it?
Well, that's not our concern. He locks the car up at night, and I've obtained a duplicate set of keys.
Oh, nice work, work. Yeah, what do you want me in on the job for? You can do it yourself.
Oh, there is a little complication.
Oh, I thought there would be.
This fellow Lambert is like a mother with a child over this car. He fixes it to a lamppost every night with 2 big padlocks and a double chain. Wonder he doesn't put a nappy on it, too.
Well, what do we do? Take the lamppost as well as the car?
And before I tell you, are you in with me?
All right, Pike. I'm in.
Then listen to what I tell you.
In the early hours of the following morning, the Pike and his assistant went along to Graysdyke Crescent, and there, sure enough, chained to the lamppost outside number 14, was a fine new motor car, its cellulose and chromium work glinting invitingly under the lamplight.
Smash on it, eh? What did I tell you? We can clean up 450 on this, and all we've got to do is to remove the back wheel, which is chained to the lamppost. We put on the spare and we're away.
Okay, Pike. Let's get cracking.
The offending wheel was removed from the axle and left, still chained, to the lamppost. And by the light of the helpful rays from above, the spare wheel was bolted on, the tools were replaced in the boot, and the 2 men climbed into the car.
I hope that ignition key of yours works, Pike.
Of course it works. I tried it out last night.
Ah, good for you.
And here we go. I told you it was going to be easy, didn't I, Ed?
It's money for old rope. You're a good one, you are, Pike. Just let me know when you need any more help. I'm your man.
Walter Piewski pulled his tartan scarf snugly around his throat and agreed that he would certainly keep his assistant in mind. The car itself was taken to a garage, where its numbers and appearance were carefully changed and, in due course, found its way by devious routes back to the open market. The Pike, of course, had to split the profits which hurt him, so on his next job, he decided to work alone. And it was the next job which put him on the long, long walk which was to finish on the scaffold.
Now, what's the number of that garage? Ah, here it is, I've got it. If this works, Park, my lad, you're in the money. But it all depends on how good I can sound on the phone. I'll copy my father's voice, rest his soul. Here we go.
Green's Motors, good evening.
Hello? Brins?
Yes, sir. Can I help you?
My name is Maurice Bluet of 17 Granford Court.
Oh, yes, sir. I know. The big block of flats in Colleton Drive.
That's right. I am staying here with a friend, Major General Lewis.
Oh, yes, sir.
He tells me that you have a new Rolls Coupe in your showroom.
Yes, sir. Indeed we have.
Yes, well, I'm anxious to take such a car back to the continent with me, but time is pressing.
Are you at 17 Granford Court now, sir?
Yes, if someone could bring round the car, I should like to see it.
Right, I'll be with you in a quarter of an hour, sir.
Are you sure that is not too much trouble?
Oh, no trouble at all, sir. Thank you very much for ringing.
Thank you. I shall be waiting for you.
15 minutes later, the car drove up to the block of flats. The driver salesman got out and went inside. Entering the lift, he went up to the 3rd floor and knocked on the door of number 17. Needless to say, the occupier had never heard of either Maurice Bluet or Major General Lewis. But while the questions and explanations sorted themselves out, Walter Piewski was already driving the luxury car toward the garage where practiced hands were waiting to completely change its identity. First, what the Pike did not know was that he had provided the police with a vital clue that was to lead him first to prison and then, by reason of the tartan scarf, to the gallows. But the scarf was yet to earn its place, of course, among these strange exhibits here in the Black Museum.
In just a moment, we will continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles. And now we continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
We return to Walter Piewski, known as the Pike, elated at the success of his confident scar trick. He made a handsome profit on the rolls, and despite the fact that the police subsequently traced it, they never traced the theft back to the Pike, not until he tried the same operation again. Certainly he changed the district, but, as is so often the case with a regular criminal, he develops regular habits, and the routine served up to the local garage was almost exactly as before.
Yes, I'm staying with Sir Leslie, and he tells me you've got that straight 8 in the showroom. I'm most anxious to take a car back to the continent with me, but time is pressing, and
I'll be delighted to bring the car round to you right away, sir, if that's convenient.
if you're sure that it's not too much trouble.
No trouble at all, sir. I'll be with you in 10 minutes.
Oh, that is most kind. Thank you. Excellent.
But you wouldn't think it was so excellent from your point of view if you knew what was happening at the garage, Pike.
Hello? Give me the police. Is that Scotland Yard?
Yes, information room.
Listen, my name is Slater. I run a garage, Carlsbrook Street, North 1.
Yes, sir.
A few weeks ago, the local police warned me about a car thief who worked a telephone trick, asking salesmen to take cars round to fake addresses for inspection.
He just rung you, has he, Mr. Slater?
Yeah, it might be him, or it might be genuine. But he asked me to take a car round to 21 Golston Court, Catamar Street.
On the advice of Scotland Yard, Mr. Slater took the car to Golston Court. To make it easier for the thief, he left the doors unlocked and went into the building. When he was safely inside, the Pike left his telephone box and walked smartly over to the waiting motor. There were just 2 things he didn't know. First, an ignition wire had been snipped, and second, he was being watched. She'll never start until that broken wire is mended, Pike. You're wasting your time. You're going to waste a lot more time, too. 7 years, to be exact.
Hello, sir. You having a bit of starting trouble?
Oh, hello, officer. Yes, I don't know what's happened here.
I'm used to this sort of thing, so is the other constable here.
Oh, there's 2 of you.
There's a lot more at the end of the road. Suppose you hop out of that and let us see whether we can't get the car going for you.
No, I can manage.
All the same, you might let us have a go for you.
Okay.
That's the idea. Are you the owner of this car? Hold him, George. He's got a knuckle there, sir.
Let me go, you swamp!
No, you don't.
Oh, God! Put the bracelets on him, quick! You all right, 71?
How is he?
Looks as if his jaw's broken, Inspector.
Right, take this man to the station. What's his name?
I'm choking.
Very well. I'm charging you with grievous bodily harm and resisting arrest for the attempted theft of this vehicle. There may be further charges.
There were further charges, including the theft of the big rolls. Walter Piewski, alias the Pike, had played the same game once too often, and a search of his flat in the East End produced more evidence of his varied career in crime. The police had been waiting for him to make his first mistake. This time he'd done it. At the Old Bailey, he pleaded guilty to over 100 crimes, and there were hundreds more with which he was never charged. He was sent to prison for 7 years, and immediately on his reception, his personal belongings were entered in the property book, and he was wearing the tartan scarf, which later was to hang him.
Silhouette, grey, 7.5. Collar, 16, brown. 1 scarf, red background, green and blue stripes, white and yellow overcheck.
The can steward.
How do you know that, Peevski?
The fellow I bought it from in Petticoat Lane told me.
I'll take his word for it. Oh, there's a small tear, 5 inches from one corner. Been roughly patched. Better put that down.
Don't worry, boys. I won't accuse you of doing it.
Don't you worry. I'll be retired by then. 1 pair leather gloves, size 8. 1 pair black socks, 10. Brown shoes, neat.
The tartan scarf had been duly entered, and little did the retiring prison officer dream that his hastily scribbled details were to be subsequently brought up as key evidence in a murder trial. But Piewski signed the list of his personal property, and for the next 7 years he was a guest of His Majesty's government in the most famous prison in England, Dartmoor. But in 1946, justice had run its course. The Pike was given back his personal property, which included the tartan scarf, of course, all duly signed for, and so he was released upon a battle-scarred London. Time passed, and he added to his lawful wages by meager pickings from the black market. And more time passed, until one day the inspiration came to him like a bolt from the blue. He mulled it over in his mind. He carried out the research, and not until the plans were cut and dried did he put Ed Javison in the picture.
This is it. This is going to be the clean-up, Eddie.
Yeah, what is it, Pike?
We're going to stick up a post office van, see?
A post office van?
I've been standing in for a chap selling papers right outside a big post office in the West End. Every night I've watched the mailbags coming out and going into the vans around 6 o'clock. Well, the other night I hired a car and followed one. It cut through Braston Mews to Park Lane.
Yeah, did you say you hired a car?
Yes, what about it?
Never mind. Yeah, go on.
Well, I had it out 3 nights and I found the vans don't change their route. It's the Mews every time. Cuts off a bit of traffic, you see?
Yeah, go on.
Now, the Mews are very dark. Badly bombed and no residents that I could see.
Yeah, I'll get it, yeah.
All we have to do is get a fast car and wait there until the last van comes through.
Yeah, how many are there?
Only 2. We draw our car out in the path of the second one, as if we were going to back into the garage, see?
Yeah.
The van stops.
Yeah.
We fix the 2 men in it, fill up our car from the back, and bring the stuff back here to sort.
To salt? Oh, I like that. Yes. Here we can bring it through the back way. When do we do it?
Well, I think our most profitable haul will be tonight, Friday.
But what about a car?
Oh, you can leave that to me.
And Walter Pievsky ran true to form. He wanted a fast car in a hurry. He applied the methods he knew. He worked the telephone trick on a young and trusting motor salesman who duly delivered a shining, high-powered limousine to a block of flats. As he disappeared into the entrance full of expectation, the Pike drove off rapidly to Braston Mews, where his partner was waiting for him. The timing was perfect. As the car stopped, the first post office van was already approaching.
Here, keep your head down, Ed. Here it comes. The second one won't be more than a minute or so behind. We must turn the car broadside onto it.
How did you get this bad?
I'll tell you later. It's hand-picked, see? Plenty of room in the back for the luggage. There we are. Nothing can get by now.
What happens if something tries to get through before the van arrives?
Well, we make way for it. It can come back another night if necessary. Here, what's this?
It's the van. We're going to be all right.
And nobody about. Couldn't be better. Now, get out.
Yeah?
Keep your chin tucked into your scarf like me.
Righto.
Pretend to be pushing the car.
Right.
What's up? Calm down.
Oh,
Afraid so. Yeah. Could you give us a push?
Sorry, mustn't leave the van.
Oh. Well, look, in that case, I wonder if you'd like to earn yourselves 10 bob, eh? If you could ring this number for us when you get to your own destination, it's my garage.
I'd log in and send a breakdown for you, eh?
That's the idea.
Oh, don't mind doing that for you. I'll do it for nothing.
Oh, thanks, Sam. You're very kind. If you got a pencil, I'll jot down my name. It's rather a difficult one.
Here, here's a pencil.
Help! Dirty thieves! Oh, that's got the both of them.
Look, we'll start getting the bags out, quick.
No, you don't.
I'll set you up, you snivelling idiot.
I'm choking. This scarf's choking me.
Here, quick with the bags, Ed.
Oh, no, here we come. What going? You'll swing for it. Start getting the stuff in the car.
Okay.
Right. Oh, I reckon that's about as much as we can take. Here. Oh, what's happened to the driver?
Oh, don't worry about him. Get moving.
Here, look at his tongue. His eyes. You've killed him.
Stop talking. Get on with the job.
There's a car coming. They've got us in their headlights. It's the cops.
Well, let's get out of here. Oh, tight on the corner.
He's coming. They're after us. Oh, watch the traffic lights. They're red. Something's coming.
We got through.
Oh, I thought we'd had it. Oh, the police car's held up by the other car.
But get away, Ed. We're going to make it.
Put them in! Slow up, we can't get round!
Ed Javison died in that crash, so mutilated that his body could not be identified. By some miracle, the Pike escaped and staggered away into the shadows. But his tartan scarf was still round the throat of his victim, lying in the mews. Now let Superintendent Brandreth take up the story of the hunt.
Well, the hunt was soon over. In fact, as soon as the car was reported stolen, I had a call from one of my inspectors.
I thought you'd like to see this.
What is it, Harrison? Oh, stolen car. Well?
Well, I've checked with criminal records, sir. There was something familiar about the method. Calling up a garage and getting the salesman to deliver the car to a block of flats. Now, here's the list of men who practiced that. Now, these two are inside at present.
Yes.
This one's going straight. Well, he's out of London anyway.
That leaves this one, Walter Piefsky.
Yes, sir. The Pike.
Know where to find him?
And he's sharing a place with a man named Javison in the East End.
Right. Bring him in.
Yes, sir.
But before the Pike was picked up for questioning about the car, his scarf was...
The car was immediately recognized as the one which we believe Piefsky had stolen. In theory, the evidence against him was already piling up. If he was the car thief, he was probably the murderer as well. But I needed that extra piece of evidence. I called for everything that was known about him, including the list of his personal property which he had signed in prison. It was a shot in the dark, but it yielded results.
There's no doubt about the scarf being his property, Superintendent, even to the patch on it.
Within 24 hours, the Pike was caught. Still dazed by the car crash, he offered no resistance. In due course, he was convicted of the murder of William Price, the driver of the post office van. And at 8 o'clock, one cold morning in February, he was hanged. All because of this tartan scarf, which has earned its place today in the Black Museum.
Orson Welles will be back with you in just a moment. Now here in person is Orson Welles.
Under English law, there are no degrees of murder, and the death sentence has to be pronounced on a man or woman convicted of the crime. Recommendations to mercy by the jury are always carefully considered. But in the case of Walter H. Piefsky, no such recommendation was made. The evidence against him was unshakable, and on the eve of his execution he reproached himself bitterly, not for the death of his victim, or even his unfortunate partner, but for two other reasons. The supreme crime of murder had brought him no profit, and as his last hour approached, he became increasingly angry at his own forgetfulness. Oh yes, they usually overlook something. And that's why the faded piece of tartan has earned its place here among the other exhibits in the Black Museum. Now, until we meet again in the same place for another story about the Black Museum, I remain as always obediently yours.
The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles, is presented by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Radio Attractions, with original music composed and conducted by Sidney Torch, produced by Harry Allen Towers.
This is Orson Welles, speaking from London. The Black Museum, a repository of death, a repertorium of violence. Here in the grim stone structure on the Thames, which houses Scotland Yard, is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, a teacup and its saucer, a lady's parasol, a surveyor's chain, all are touched by murder. Now you take this lady's shoe. It's a familiar object, high of heel, neat cross straps, dainty design on the toe, an excellent sample of the art of the modern bootmaker.
Like my new shoes, Henry?
Lovely, my dear. Shows off your instep perfectly. And the way it breaks away from the curve of your arch. Enticing. Definitely enticing, my dear.
Henry, you're impossible. And I love it.
A nice couple talking about a pair of shoes. You'll hear more about that couple and more about the shoes. One of those shoes, by the way, is to be found today in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Department of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum.
Here we are in the Black Museum, Scotland Yard's mausoleum of murder. Here lies death, yep, entombed neatly with printed labels, with records of names, places, times, each white card a kind of tombstone. Very interesting collection in this museum. Here, there's a gardener's clippers. If you have a hedge around your property, you own one, long, sharp, triangular blades. They're fine for clipping boxwood. Fine, too, it was learned, for clipping jugular veins. And here's a true weapon, a revolver, a lady's gun. This little .22. But the lady who used this one summer evening made very sure of her victim. She coated the tiny bullets with cyanide. Yes, and the shoe. Oh, the pair of them, of course. Charming, delightful. That's the type of fragile footwear a lady of some means would be expected to own. Elizabeth Marlowe was just such a lady. And she bought the shoes to please Henry Higley, who'd persuaded her that her age of nearly 40 was not too old for marriage. And she wore them as she drove through the stormy night, which marked the beginning of her honeymoon.
The storm seems to be getting worse, Henry, darling.
Don't worry, my dear. Here's the inn. The light's just ahead.
Too bad the house wasn't ready for us tonight.
Our first night in our own house?
I'd have loved it, dear. It's so charming, so Elizabethan, from half timbers to the moat. Imagine a house with a moat.
I wanted something Elizabethan, darling. After all, it'll be a setting for my Elizabeth.
Gay, happy conversation, honeymoon talk. In spite of the rain pouring over the windshield. In spite of the dramatic lightning and the rolling thunder. Henry helped Elizabeth out of the worst of the rain, handed her a funny little terrier named Patsy, which Elizabeth had insisted on bringing with her, and then knocked on the door of Webley's Inn.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Come in, please.
I'm Henry Higley. This is my wife. You're
Martha Webley. I've given you up, what with the weather and all. We wouldn't have missed this for the world, Mrs. Webley. The storm. Well, it's almost romantic. Oh, the little dog. Oh, isn't he sweet?
Are our rooms ready, Mrs. Webley?
Oh, of course. And a fire going against the storm. Oh, and may I take the opportunity, ma'am, sir, of wishing you all the happiness?
The Hegleys stayed at the Webley Inn for several weeks until the house was ready. The Elizabethan house with the half timbers and the moat standing on the edge of the moor. As Martha Webley put it,
they were so happy, middle-aged, but happy as kids.
If laughter and enjoyment of simple things is happiness, then Henry and Elizabeth knew happiness. They drove over to their house each day and each evening. They discussed its progress.
Would you like the moat drained, dear?
But the water is part of it. Without the water, it would be just a ditch.
I thought perhaps you'd like to make a rose garden out of it.
But there was a garden at the rear of the house, so the water stayed in the moat. The mock drawbridge was always down, and very soon Henry carried Elizabeth across the bridge and into their home.
Home at last.
It's going to be wonderful, dear.
Glad you bought the place?
We bought it, darling.
With your money, sweet.
What's mine is yours. Ours, darling, always. Now, come along upstairs.
There's always a lot to do in a 10-room house. Nobody with any sense tries to run a place of that size without help. So Henry, with Elizabeth's approval, interviewed several local young ladies.
What's your name, young woman?
June Godwin, sir. And here's my reference.
Yes, I see. Upstairs maid, also parlour maid. Any cooking?
Just plain cooking, sir.
My wife and I are plain people. We thought we'd try to get along without a regular cook, for a while at least.
I'll do my best, sir.
I'm sure you will.
Then I'm hard, Mr. Wrigley?
Why not? You've a good reference. That'll please your mistress, and you've your share of good looks. That pleases me.
So that was the way the wind blew, was it? And so soon after the wedding. Well. Little June Godwin went about her business, dismissing the remark as the pleasantry of a new employer who wanted her to feel at home. Now Henry established the custom in that household of giving his wife her breakfast in bed. June prepared the tray and took it upstairs. She'd been doing this for about a week.
My, don't we look fresh and neat and beautiful this morning?
Mr. Hickley, please, sir, don't.
Shy, are you, eh? With those eyes and that figure? Come here, little one.
No, sir, please.
What do the boys hereabouts think of you?
I wouldn't know, sir. If you'll excuse me, sir, I'll take the tray to Mrs. Igley.
Handled herself well, didn't she, for a country girl? There's no nonsense about June Godwin. She needed a job. She was a loyal girl, loyal to her mistress and to herself in a way. Maybe that's why she spoke as she did. She deposited the breakfast tray in Elizabeth Higley's bedroom.
Ma'am, if I can speak to you a minute.
Of course, June. What's the trouble?
It's about Mr. Igley, ma'am.
Oh?
Well, ma'am, it's not that I'm giving my notice or anything, but I'm a nice girl, ma'am.
Of course you are.
Mr. Igley, ma'am, he tried to take privileges this morning.
Perhaps you'd better try to
June
tell me
finally managed to tell her mistress the brief details. Elizabeth was hardly pleased, but she showed nothing of her feelings to Henry, at least on that score. Of course, there may have been something more than a slight edge to her tone later that day, as she said to him,
There's a notice from the bank, Henry. It says my account is overdrawn.
Oh? How much?
Almost £300. This never happened to me before I added your signature to the account.
Oh, but there was plenty there.
Oh, I know. But there's a cheque here which I thought was for £30, and it turns out to be for £300.
But I thought I told you, darling, it was £300. In any case, dear, your dividends are due in a few days, so let's not worry about it.
A simple explanation, and very smooth. Just the type of explanation an infatuated woman can be expected to accept. But for Elizabeth, the infatuation and the honeymoon were over. They came to an abrupt end about a week later.
June, little June, I want to see you a moment.
Can it wait till morning, Mr. Igley? Please.
Impossible. I must see you now.
I can't let you in. I'm in bed. I'm not dressed.
That doesn't matter. Let me in, June. I have to talk to you now. I'll use my master key.
Oh.
Open up and let me in. Shut up, you little fool. Open the door. All right, but we'll settle this, and soon.
What's wrong, June? Are you ill?
Oh, Mrs. Higley, Mrs. Higley. Oh, Mrs. Higley, I'm so frightened.
I understand, June. It was my husband. Again. Wasn't it?
The end of the honeymoon. It came quickly after that. Elizabeth said simply,
Henry, I'm leaving you. I'm going to London to talk with my lawyer.
After your talk with him, you'll change your mind. Taking a servant's word against mine. Really, my dear. What train are you making? I'll drive you into town.
A little while later, Henry dropped into the kitchen and told June quite coolly,
I'm driving Mrs. Higley into the station. She's going up to London. I'll pick her up on the 9:45 tonight when she comes back.
At 9:15 that night, Henry told the servant girl,
I'm going in to pick up Mrs. Higley. We should be back a little after 10.
and at 10:15, Henry came back.
Funny. Mrs. Higley wasn't at the station. She must have missed the train and decided to stay in town for the night.
And then the next day,
I've had a letter from Mrs. Higley. She's staying with relatives in London for a few days. Nothing to worry about.
but June did worry. And she took her worries to her mother.
I'm sure he's lying, Mums. I'm sure of it.
Now, Junie, don't be excitable.
I'm not, Mums. I'm not. He told me he was going to the station to call for her, but I didn't hear the car.
Perhaps you weren't paying attention.
He said he had a letter, and the postman never called that morning. And last night he tried to get into my room again. I won't go back, Mums. Now I'm home again, I won't go back.
Orson Welles will be back with you in just a moment.
This was gossip. Oh, yes, gossip indeed. But Mrs. Goodwin restrained herself for a while. After all, there was only one other person in the village who knew the Higleys. That was Mrs. Webley at the inn. Yes, Mrs. Webley.
Now, what's all that? Why, it's the Higley dog. Patsy. Oh, here, Patsy. What's the trouble, doggy? Miss your mistress, is that it? Do you miss your mistress?
The shoe, by the way, reposes today in an honored position in the Black Museum. A dog howls at the back door and whines with fear. Then it wags its tail and snuffles in appreciation of a pat on the head. But mention its mistress, and the howling begins again. Is this a clue to a possible crime? Certainly it'd have no meaning in a court of law. Clever defense counsel would have it stricken from the records within minutes. But it would have meaning among plain people who are sensitive to many of the laws of nature.
Another cup of tea, Mrs. Godwin.
No, thank you, Mrs. Webley.
June, dearie?
I couldn't touch a thing. I'm so upset about the poor little dog.
Oh, she's all right. I'm sure
But you said you called the moat house and he came for the dog right away.
Oh, I doubt he'll hurt the little animal.
Has other things on his mind, he has, with that one working for him.
That Muriel, you mean?
Exactly. And glad I am that my June up and left him when she did. Have you seen or heard of Mrs. Higley, dear?
Not a word. No sign. But then, maybe she knows about that Muriel.
3 people knew about that Muriel by now, a new hired girl at Henry Higley's house. And before very long, others would know, but this held no foreboding for Henry Higley. Now for that Muriel.
Now, Mr. Higley, you mustn't.
Why not, my dear? Who's to know except you and me?
Oh, Mr. Higley, how you do go on. Oh, Mr. Higley.
Give us a kiss, pretty one. But never say I told you it went with the job.
Oh, well, just one.
Muriel. When are you going to stop calling me Mr. Higley, eh?
A kind of mean paradise surrounded by a moat filled with water, reached by a mock drawbridge which was never raised. And into that pseudo-idyllic setting, across that bridge, there strode a caller. He rang the doorbell.
Yes, sir?
Is Mr. Higley at home?
Who might be calling, sir?
Inspector Sterrett, Scotland Yard.
3 people knew, and soon many more. Word spread, the police evinced some interest. The inspector called and was invited in. He was offered a drink, tea. He refused politely.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Higley. No, I've only a short while. May I ask the whereabouts of Mrs. Higley?
Of course you may ask. As far as I know, she's staying with friends in London. I have some letters if you care to see them.
Oh, we'll take your word for it, Mr. Higley. But there's been some talk, ugly rumors, you understand, I'm sure.
Yes, I had to discharge a servant girl.
We were given to understand she left of her own accord.
Not at all. The girl seemed a trifle hard of hearing. Couldn't hear my car on the driveway. Missed the postman's whistle constantly.
I see. And then there's the little dog. Seems to have been howling a bit.
Oh, if you look out of the window there in the back garden, eh? Seems quite contented, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. Well, thank you very much for the courtesy.
The inspector took his leave. When the door closed behind him, Henry Higley did some thinking. The next day, he spoke to Muriel.
How would you like to take a trip with me, Muriel?
Oh, you mean close up the house?
Why not?
I'm not sure I want to go away. Oh, you're a sweet man, Henry, but I live here.
You've no idea how we could live, what fun we could have. I can draw all the cash from the banks in 10 and 25-pound notes, so it wouldn't take too much room. And we could have a time in London, a real time. I'd buy some...
So Henry planned a little trip. And he took the trip. Oddly enough, Muriel didn't go along. A permanent tie was not in her plans at the moment. She stayed behind in the house with a little dog for company. All was quiet after Henry went away. Quiet, yes. Inactive? Oh, no.
Tell me, Mr. Marlowe, when did you last hear from your sister?
Elizabeth wrote us just after she moved into the house with her husband. I'm afraid we never answered her. The family disapproved of Higley, you see.
Oh, any particular reason?
Well, he was penniless. Elizabeth, as you probably know, has a nice income from quite a bit of capital. She bought the house, you see.
Yes, we heard about that. That's one reason we sought you out, Mr. Marlowe.
Are you intimating the possibility of trouble, Inspector?
There's always the possibility when a grown person disappears without a trace. And there have been rumors and a few odd coincidences. In any case, we checked the bank. The manager showed us these papers.
Oh, what are they?
A deed transfer giving full title to the house and property to Henry Higley. Is this your sister's signature, Mr. Marlowe?
Oh, let me see. I need my glasses, I'm afraid. Now then... Oh, strange. Looks like hers. But as if she'd suddenly grown old. It wavers so. There, for instance. The L and the W and the Marlowe. Elizabeth Marlowe Higley. Inspector, I want to compare it with her letters. But I think I can say with reasonable certainty that this is not my sister's signature.
Thank you, Mr. Marlowe. Thank you. To all stations, alert for one Henry Higley, wanted for forgery. Notify all banks. The following serial numbers are of 25-pound notes connected with forgery case. Appearance of any of these notes to be called to the attention of the local police at once in the usual manner.
At long last, the hunt was on. The charge pending. Forgery. The days passed. Nothing was reported, though an occasional banknote with a proper serial number did turn up in the ordinary course of business. Patiently, the places where the notes appeared were charted.
First Ramsgate, then Dover. A week later, Folkestone. I imagine we'll find he spent a few days in Paris. After that, Kingston. I expect we'll be hearing from London itself shortly.
from London itself.
How long does it take to change a mere £25? One would think the Bank of England had that much cash in small denominations lying about.
Beg pardon, sir. Are you the gentleman wanted to change this note?
I am.
Would you mind stepping this way for a moment, sir?
I'm rather in a hurry. Is something the matter with it?
With the note? No. My credentials, sir.
I see. Detective Inspector Andrews.
And you, sir?
Higley. Henry Higley. Why all the mystery, Inspector?
I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to come with us, sir. You see, the serial number of this banknote and several others have been published in a small matter of forgery.
Forgery? What's that to do with me?
I'm sure you had nothing to do with it, Mr. Higley, and that you will be most anxious to cooperate with the police. This way, sir, if you don't mind.
Henry did mind. His sense of cooperation became stunted quite suddenly. He found very little to tell Inspector Sterrett and Andrews.
Of course I drew the money. It was a joint account that I had a right to.
And what is your explanation of the transfer of the house?
There's none I can give you now. When Elizabeth returns...
Where is your wife, Higley?
She didn't say, just staying with friends.
Any reason for that?
We had a quarrel, a lover's quarrel. She'll get over it when she comes back.
You seem very certain she will come back.
Have you any reason, Inspector, to doubt that she will?
No, not at the moment, nor any reason to doubt that you will be here awaiting her.
Do you mean to say you're thinking of holding me on charges?
Frankly, we are. You see, Higley, we did a little routine checking. We found that you'd been arrested 3 times, convicted once. In each case, the charge was swindling women who were old enough to know better. So we are holding you, Higley. And the charge is forgery.
Now, the direction of the search changed somewhat. Henry Higley was safe, and he'd remain so until Elizabeth Marlowe Higley was found.
You've no right to take the house apart like this. Mr. Higley will...
I'm sorry, my girl. We have a warrant.
I don't understand, sir. What are you looking for?
Not what, my girl. Whom? We're looking for Mrs. Higley.
In the cupboards and under the floor and... No. Oh, it isn't true. It isn't. She went away.
They took the house apart and put it back together again. Nothing. They dragged the moat around the house. Nothing. Then they drained it.
There it is, Sterrett, dry as it ever will be, and nothing. Not a sign.
Mud looks mighty deep.
It's a quagmire down there. Watch this. Takes that stone as if it were nothing. He couldn't have thrown a body that far out, and there's no sign of anything on the sides.
He might have waded out, Andrews. The water wasn't particularly deep.
He'd have gone in up to his waist if he'd tried that. You know, it takes good soil to make mud like that.
Yes, I noticed. Funny the way they let the garden go to seed.
Oh, it's not too bad. Except for that patch of stunted bush over there, where the dog's lying.
Yes, let's have a look at that, shall we?
You never quit, do you, Sterrett?
Human beings can't disappear without a trace. They just don't, that's all. Oh, that's a good dog. There we are. There. These aren't stunted, Andrews. These are new plantings.
You're right. Look here, the whole area, straight to the moat. This earth was turned, and fairly recently, at least 10 yards of it.
That's a ditch, Andrews, a ditch that has been filled in. I think maybe we ought to start digging hereabouts. 8 hours now, and still nothing.
There'll be nothing. Another good idea gone wrong. Shall I tell the men to stop?
Yes, you may as well. Hello?
Sterrett, that dog. She's found something.
Yes, something she's recognized. Get those lights over here, man.
All right, they're coming up here. All right, yeah, come on here.
All right, you can start digging again, but carefully now. All around that spot. It's pretty obvious, Andrews. There's a body attached to that lady's shoe.
And as I told you at the beginning of this story, that shoe reposes today in an honored position in the Black Museum. The medical examiner swore that a .32 caliber bullet had killed Elizabeth Marlowe. The ballistics expert testified the bullet had come from the gun in Henry Higley's possession the day of his arrest in the Bank of England. Another expert adjusted the noose, placed the white hood over Higley's head, heard the man whisper the admission of his guilt, and sprang the trap. Martha Webley has Patsy now, and the little dog enjoys the fields around Webley's Inn. A fit reward, I think you'll agree, for the faithfulness which brought her mistress's killer to final justice. And as I told you, the dainty shoe remains in its customary position in that big stone building on the Thames in Scotland Yard in the Black Museum. Now, until next time, until another story about the Black Museum, I remain as always, obediently yours.
This is Orson Welles, speaking from London. The Black Museum. A museum of death. Yes, here in the grim stone structure on the Thames which houses Scotland Yard is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, a cotton reel, a tobacco pouch, a bootlace, all are touched by murder. There's a shopping bag, faded green canvas, square in shape, large enough to envelop a human head. There you are, sir. Would Madame like to take it? No? Nothing inside now. These wisps of blonde hair were found inside by the experts in the police laboratory, but that was a long time ago. Who did the hair belong to? Well, there was no doubt about that.
This is Vera Dawson's hair, Inspector. Victim number 5, eh?
Yes.
He's been in the habit of bleaching her hair for years. That's why it probably came out fairly easily.
And the pathetic blonde hairs proved that the canvas shopping bag had been used to suffocate their owner, victim number 5. That is why the bag has earned its place today in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Department of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum.
Here we are in the Black Museum. Beyond these stone walls, London throbs and is alive, but within these closely guarded precincts, all is silence, death. It's quiet, very quiet. Come with me under the frieze of death masks, the masks of criminals of bygone days, suspended grimly below the ceiling. They were collected at a time when the forensic theorists believed that a composite face made up of the dominant characteristics of hundreds of criminal features would resolve into a picture of the typical criminal. But in 1913, the experts decided that the masks presented nothing different from your face or mine, the average law-abiding citizen. Did you say something? Now, up there, you know that face. Yes, it's Heinrich Himmler, the German Gestapo chief. That mask was taken a few hours after he bit into a phial of potassium cyanide as he stood before his British captors at Lüneburg. And perhaps you may feel easier if you keep your eyes lowered as we pass along the rows of inanimate objects, each one marked with the names of the killer and the killed. Some of the exhibits are labeled with more than 2 names. Here we are. We've arrived at the shopping bag. 1 killer, Stanley Haines. 5 victims, including his wife, who is his second on the list. Here's the bag, insignificant in itself, but terrifying when considered in relation to its history. And its history is bound up with the story of the man who used it. Stanley Haines, one-time bank clerk, petty thief, junk merchant, murderer, hanged by his shopping bag. But let's go back to join him in his junk shop. It's located in Wildron Street, North London. The place belonged to his wife's first husband. The district is poor, the shop is dusty, crammed with litter. Mrs. Edith Haines, a semi-invalid, is confined to a bed in the living quarters upstairs. Hames himself just lighted the gas lamp in the shop. The feeble yellow rays are reflected back from the November fog which presses darkly against the windows. The light is dim, but to a young girl, Patricia Wilson, is a beacon to which she turns for guidance.
Oh, my word, what a night. I wonder if you can help me.
Well, if I can.
I'm a stranger here, and I'm looking for 71 Wildron Street. I can't see the numbers on the doors. My torch has given out.
This is number 22. You'll find 71 to the left on the other side of the road.
Oh, tell.
Fog's getting thicker, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm afraid it is.
You'll have a job to find the house you're looking for.
Oh, no. I promised to go and see my girlfriend there. I wish I hadn't. It was quite clear when I left home.
Have you come far?
Only from Vauxhall, and I'd
Well, perhaps I can fix your torch for you.
Oh, I'll be ever so glad. If you do happen to have a spare bulb, that'd do it. Here's the torch.
Yes.
There. Let go my arm.
What's your name?
Here, let me go. Oh, I'll hit you again if you don't take your hands off me.
You would you? You come here.
Help!
Quiet, you little idiot.
Oh, you're choking me. Oh, Stanley.
Edith, how did you get down here?
Who is this girl? Take him away. He tried to kill me.
Don't be absurd. She's only just come
Stop
in.
using that shopping bag and pull yourself together. Let me get out of here. No, wait. I'm his wife. I want to know what happened.
Breathlessly, the frightened girl explained. Haines stood silent. His wife listened, horrified. The girl finished her story.
What did you do, Stan?
I've nothing to say except I'm sorry.
So I should think. But you're not getting away with this. I'm going to report it to the police. But you're not safe. Oh, please. Now, please, for my sake, don't take it any further. I think it would kill me if the police came. She's fainting. Oh, dear.
Take it easy, Edith. I've got you.
I'm all right. Well, she's ill. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Go and get a doctor. Oh, no, I don't want anybody. Please tell me you won't make trouble. Well, for your sake, then, I won't tell anyone. Thank you. Hope it didn't hurt you too much. No, I'm feeling better now. More shocked than anything else. And you won't say anything? Not a word.
In her efforts to avoid a scandal, Edith Haines had signed her own death warrant. Police intervention at this stage might have prevented her husband from following the path which leads to the scaffold. As it was, Patricia Wilson kept her promise and nothing happened. The weeks passed, and slowly in the dark mind of Stanley Haines, strange ideas began to take shape. The brief encounter had triggered off a demon that must be satisfied. And at last, the fatal opportunity presented itself in the comely form of a Miss Sylvia Parks, age 27.
Good evening. Can I see the second-hand dolls pram you got advertised in the window?
Yes, it's at the back of the shop if you'd like to have a look.
My sister's little girl. She's 8 tomorrow, and I can't afford much.
Oh, well, this is a bargain. I only picked it up 2 days ago. There it is.
Oh, what? I don't think much of that. I thought it was a catch.
Oh, you have a good look at it. You won't do better for the money.
Oh, no. There's one's painting. Here. What you doing? Oh.
This time there was no noise to attract the attention of the invalid upstairs. With one powerful hand over his victim's mouth, Haines reached for the canvas shopping bag. Slipping it over her head, he drew the cords tight. And there was silence.
That stopped her. I must get her out of sight. Gently does it. Edith mustn't hear. Now, I loosened the floorboards by the back door. I must put it down quickly.
Sylvia Parks disappeared into the 4-foot cavity between the foundations of the building and the floorboards above the ground floor. But although Mrs. Haines may have heard nothing upstairs, she must have sensed the horror below. Quite suddenly, before her husband could replace the boards, she appeared at the door, leaning heavily on her stick for support.
What's that?
And what is that?
Nothing's happened. Why the devil you creep up on me? I can't stand it. Get back where you belong.
You've done something.
Get out!
What are you doing down there?
I thought I'd smelled gas. I've been looking at the pipes.
There's a woman's hat on the floor. Where is she?
Get out! Get out!
She's down there. I could see her foot.
Edith Hames lay silent in death beside the body of Sylvia Parks. And what of the murderer? Was the demon satisfied? Seems that for the moment he was. According to Hames's own story, he took himself off that night to the local public house. Felt that he needed company. Live company.
All right, if it isn't the old junk man himself. How's business, chum? Business is fine. Well, you wouldn't think so looking at that shop of yours. It looks like a blooming morgue. Why don't you give it a good clear out, eh?
If you'll look after your own affairs, I'll attend to mine.
All right, I was only kidding. Here, have a drink.
Now. Yes, I will. I'll have a large scotch.
Oh, getting your own back, eh? All right, I asked for it. Large scotch for Mr. Hames, please, Sally.
Okay, celebrating, are you?
Yes, I'm celebrating.
Here, how's that wife of yours? Is she any better?
My wife? Oh, yes, she's much better now.
Oh, I'm glad about that. She used to be a regular in here when she was married to... Well, I've known her a long time, of course.
Yes, longer than I have.
Well, tell her Joe was looking after her, will you? Me and the missus have promised to come round and see her one night.
Oh, well, didn't you know she's going to stay with her married sister in Birmingham?
Has she? I never knew she had a sister up there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, well, here's your drink. Bottoms up. Now I see why you're out on the loose.
Oh, cheerio. That's all. I needed that.
Whoa, it's not much fun living on your own, is it? Oh, I'm as miserable as sin when my missus pops over to see her mother. Still, it's better than having the old ma popping round to see us. Oh, not that I don't like it.
It's not much fun living on your own. Hames discovered that in spite of the fact that he was not exactly alone in his dark little shop. There were too many shadows. The mice playing amongst his shabby merchandise would startle him. But without money, there was no escape. So he decided to let the back bedroom, and he advertised it discreetly in a small journal which was not circulated in his home district. His lodger would have to be a complete stranger, and so he turned out to be. But he couldn't escape from the faded canvas shopping bag, which has earned its place so well in the Black Museum. We return to Stanley Hames in his shop at 22 Wildren Street. The advertisement for a room to let has produced its result, and the back bedroom is occupied by a short, middle-aged man with square shoulders and wary eyes. He calls himself George Smith, which is as good as any other name, but Hames is suspicious. The lodger never ventures out except for brief moments during the hours of darkness. He behaves like a man who has something to hide. And Stanley Hames, now desperately short of money, decides to cash in on his opportunity.
Who's there?
Only me. Want to speak to you.
What do you want?
Oh, I hope you find the room comfortable.
Suits me.
Yes, it's well tucked away, isn't it? Nobody would look for you here.
What are you getting at?
Nothing. But I'm afraid I've got to increase your rent.
It's like that, is it?
Yes, it is. I'm no fool.
You dirty little runt, I could break you in half.
Think so? I've got strong hands, you know. And if I did happen to disappear, things would become even more complicated for you, wouldn't they?
I don't know what the devil you're talking about.
Well, I'm increasing your rent from £1 a week to £5 a week.
Oh, and you thieving
If you don't like it, you can get out.
I see. All right. I'll give you 3 quid. That's my limit.
It's 5 all out. For 5, you get food and protection.
So you found out who I am, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take your turn. Here's your first, Father.
The bluff has worked. Hames had no idea that his lodger was, in point of fact, Gary Saunders, a wanted man. His partner had squealed on him following a vicious case of robbery with violence. Now every policeman in the country was on the lookout for him. but how infinitely safer he would have been in jail. As it was, his hush money restored Hames to his old self, and once again, the demon started working. Toward the end of January, the murderer met a painted lady who agreed to visit his home. It was during the night that Smith, alias Saunders, was awakened sharply from an uneasy slumber. He jumped from his bed, crossed the narrow landing, and burst into the room which he knew Hames occupied. It was a pretty clear case of murder.
By heavens, take that thing off her head. How dare you come in here? Take that bag over and get out of the way. Stop! Stop! You pay for this! She's dead. You've killed her. Yes, she's dead, isn't she? But who did it? You or me? What do you mean, you murdering devil? I happen to have a clean record. My word will carry more weight than yours, I imagine. Oh, you'd frame me, would you? You're not fit to live, Ames. Why, Sandra, I'm going to get the police. I'll take what's coming to me. But you're going to swing for this? I don't think so. Drop that knife. I'm not going to swing for you or anybody else. Nobody knows she was here and nobody knows you're here. Get back here, man. Now. No, don't do it. I told you I had strong hands. You didn't think I was strong enough, did you? Now you've learned your lesson. I can't be beaten.
Sylvia Parks, Edith Hames, the unknown lady who was subsequently identified as a Mrs. Doris Luke, and Gary Saunders. 4 victims. And to avoid the trouble of dragging the last 2 down the stairs to the burial ground under the shop floor, Hames shut them away in a cupboard in the bathroom. After that, he cleaned up and discovered nearly 2,000 pounds in notes which Saunders had hidden away in his back bedroom. This decided him to take what he considered to be a well-earned holiday. But before he went, he added yet another victim to his list, Vera Dawson, of the bleached hair. We don't know how she was lured into his death shop, but we do know that she left some of her hair inside the canvas shopping bag. And at this point, I will hand you over to a young man who was the key witness in the case against Mr. Hames. He's Mr. Peter Johnson.
My wife and I were the unfortunate couple who rented the Hames shop. When we met him, he seemed to be just an ordinary sort of chap. He told us he'd redecorated the whole place and was going off to Birmingham to join his wife. She's been in oil for years, you know. Her sister's been very good, but I've decided to find a little place in the country for her. Well, that's probably the best thing. As you see, the shop's empty now, and I've cleared all my old stuff out, and I think it looks quite nice and bright, don't you?
Oh, yes. I think it's just what we've been looking for, don't you, Peter?
There you are, Mr. Hames. The wife likes it. We're in.
Oh, good, good. I'm sure you'll be very happy.
You wanted 6 months' rent in advance, I believe.
That's right.
I'll write you a check now.
You haven't got cash?
Oh, not for that amount, but the check won't bind.
Oh, no, of course not.
Well, here it is. It's all ready for you. We really made up our minds to take the place yesterday, you see, but, well, Julie wanted to come back today just to make sure.
Well, I know you're going to be happy here. We've been happy. Here are the keys. Now I'll leave you to sort things out on your own.
It was 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, so Stanley Hames was fortunately unable to cash the check as the banks were then closed until the Monday morning. In the meantime, Peter and Julie Johnston were having a busy weekend. They camped in the front bedroom for the night, and early on Sunday, the young wife was measuring the floors for carpeting, while her husband was fixing a glass-fronted cabinet in the bathroom.
What's the matter, darling?
Oh, I've hit my finger with a hammer.
Oh, have you hurt yourself?
No, just flattened my first finger. Oh, but, this is funny.
I'm glad you're cheerful about it.
No, I mean the wall here.
Don't do that, Peter. You're marking the paper.
Oh, it's hollow. There must have been a cupboard here, and, old Hames has covered it in for some reason.
I say, we could do with a cupboard. There isn't one in the whole place.
Well, there's one here, all right. But, I'd have to redo the wall if I opened it up.
Oh, you'd better leave it then.
Just pass me that chisel. There's a sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, thanks. I'll just open a little hole and see how big it is inside. It might not be worth opening the whole thing.
Oh, careful. Perhaps Mr. Hames will be angry if he comes back and finds what you've done.
Oh, don't worry about him. I've paid him enough rent anyway. Here it comes. Good. Now, give me the torch, will you?
Here you are.
Thanks. Hey, there's bags of room behind here. We'll soon see it.
Peter. Peter, what is it?
I think I'm going to be ill.
Oh, darling.
Get out of here. Go on. Right outside.
Why? Why?
I can't talk. Just get right out into the street. Quick, come on.
The police were on the spot within a matter of minutes. As their cars roared into Wildron Street in answer to Peter Johnston's call, curtains fluttered in front windows, and a growing crowd appeared quickly outside number 22.
Are you Mr. Johnston, sir? Yes, that's right. This is my wife. I'm Inspector Denton. Perhaps the lady had better stay out here while you show us the way up. Yes, sir, of course. I gather you took possession yesterday. Yes, I only wish we'd never seen the place. This is the bathroom. Have a look through that little hole in the wall. Right. Give me your torch, Robert. Yes, sir. Now, let's see. Whew. Well, I've seen a few things in my time, Mr. Johnston, but this is about my lot. I understand why you're so upset. This is the works, is it, sir? I'll say it is. There's 3 of them in here. A man and 2 women. You better go down to your wife while we take the whole wall down, Mr. Johnson. We haven't seen the half of it yet.
In point of fact, the inspector had seen rather more than half of it. The bodies of Sylvia Parks and Edith Hames were discovered under the shop floor a few hours later. By that time, the whole building was being methodically opened up. Floors were lifted, chimneys explored, the foundations and the small patch of garden were being dug, and the word went out to get Stanley Hames.
We managed to obtain a photograph of him from one of his neighbors, but we were dealing with a wily customer. Even before he knew the chase was on, he'd shaved the top of his head, which gave the impression of baldness, and he put on horn-rimmed spectacles, which completely changed his appearance. He heard on the radio that the balloon had gone up sooner than he expected, and by then he was well away from London. Those notes which Jerry Saunders got on his last job, Superintendent, I've got the numbers.
Good. And there's no possibility of the money being hidden away in 22 Wildron Street?
No, sir. Hames got it all right, and it won't be long before he starts passing some of it.
Yes, we better notify every area in the country. As soon as one of those notes is traced, we'll be on the Hames tail. He might be in disguise, or he might be lying low. But he's got to spend money, and that's how we're going to find him.
For obvious reasons, no mention of the money was disclosed in the press. So Stanley Hames was unaware that he was carrying his own death sentence in the canvas shopping bag, which also contained his spare clothing. Yes, he had taken the bag with him. Perhaps it had a morbid fascination. Perhaps he thought he might use it again. But anyway, it made a convenient carrier. Convenient for him and, as it transpired, convenient for the police.
Days after the murders were discovered, I had a call from a young lady named Patricia Wilson. She told me how the previous November she'd been caught out in a fog and gone into the Hames junk shop for directions. She told me how he'd attacked her and how his wife had pleaded that she shouldn't report it to the police.
Oh, I made a terrible mistake. But I had to come and tell you.
We're very grateful to you, Miss Wilson. Now, if you can cast your mind back, I'd like you to try and tell me every little detail of what happened and what was said.
Well, the first words are really that Mrs. Hames speaks sounded sort of funny and out of place.
Oh, how was that?
You got one hand on my throat when she'd come in while you was fiddling about with something over my head. She said to him, she said, "Stop waving that shopping bag and pull yourself together," she said.
I see. You suppose he was trying to pull the bag over your head?
Oh, my goodness, I never thought of that.
What sort of bag was it?
Green canvas thing with a string around the top.
You trace anything like it amongst the stuff he disposed of, Inspector?
No, sir. No bags or cases.
Yeah, and it's just possible he might still have the bag with him. Better add that to the general description.
Yes, sir. Right away.
A detail, a flimsy possibility. But every step had to be taken that might help to trace the murderer. Then, after nearly a week of suspense, the first stolen note was reported right in London. Hames had come back to hide amongst the teeming millions in the great city. The search was concentrated now, and after 9 days on the run, Hames was caught. It was the canvas bag which attracted the attention of a plainclothes officer. It made him concentrate on the man's face, and, taking a chance, he approached him.
Excuse me, sir. Yes? I'm a police officer. I'm sorry to trouble you, but I wonder if you'd just remove those glasses for a moment.
All right. There you are.
Are you Stanley Hames?
No, you've made a mistake.
Perhaps you'd come along to the station with me. We may not keep you for long.
Suppose I refuse.
I'll still have to take you.
Okay.
Hames went like a lamb, and once inside the station, he readily admitted his identity. The murderer was found, and the chase was over. All because of a faded green canvas shopping bag, which has earned its place today in the Black Museum.
Orson Welles will be back with you in just a moment.
Hames was a killer because it was his desire to kill. Except in the case of his one male victim, he killed coldly and ruthlessly. He had no pity. In fact, as we know, he would celebrate his murders. At his trial, he was obviously pleased to be the center of attraction, and for some reason he confessed to every detail relating to his first 4 murders. But with regard to his 5th victim, Vera Dawson, he would say nothing. But the evidence was in the back.
This is Vera Dawson's hair, Inspector. Victim number 5, eh? Yes. She's been in the habit of bleaching her hair for years. That's probably why it came out fairly easily.
So Stanley Hames went to the scaffold, and the pathetic blonde hairs lie beside the faded green shopping bag in the Black Museum. Now, until we meet again sometime in the same place, I tell you another story about the Black Museum. I remain, as always, obediently yours.